Hello, my name's Robert Bearden. You can call me Robbie. This is my applied assignment for SPE 223. Just table of contents real quick. We're going to go through the pre-work I did, the research, the new learning that I've picked up, and then we're going to talk about the area that I'd like to keep looking into. So for my pre-work, my topic is the education system's disability policies and how they impact parent and teacher relations. As a parent, I'm curious about the process. I've been on my side of it extensively as the parent to a child with autism, and I'm curious about how it works from the other side. Get some insight into that. Also, I'm studying education. Haven't decided what kind of education I'm going to study yet, but thinking about special education. So this will be a good way to just see how this topic will affect my future employment. The aspects of inclusion that I'm looking into are going to be education, specifically policy and family advocacy within that. For my interview, I talked to Amy Abramson and Elisa Bierman. They're my son's former and current special education caseworkers. Their background knowledge is they both have many years, decades of experience in both general education and special education. And of course, my background knowledge in this comes from advocating for and dealing with my son. So for the course materials I chose to read specifically on this topic, first I did Equity, Parental Caregiver Power, and Disability Policy in the U.S. by Vugarides. It was a piece, basically, it was about the relationship between parents' economic status and just how that affects how involved and or demanding they are in correlation to that. Sort of pointed out an entitlement. Parents of certain socioeconomic strata just, they would demand a lot more time and even try to override professional educators and their opinions, and how that sort of changes with income level. The myth, the culture of poverty was a good balance in that it talked about the myths we create about people living in poverty, how those stereotypes affect how impoverished people feel about themselves, but also about how professionals would deal with them as well. Obviously has applications to parents that are dealing with special ed children. The research that I found for myself, I found Teacher Counter Narratives, Transgressing and Restoring Disability in Education by Broderick and others. And that was a discussion of the challenges of special education, particularly talking about bureaucracy within education, how it works and how it can be structured to be more successful. I also read Children with Disabilities, Parents with Disabilities, and Lawyers by Weber. And it discusses the challenges, basically, of policies, interacting with policies as you advocate for your special needs child, particularly the challenge of being a non-disabled parent. And it also talked about universal design, which is something that I've really been interested in as I've read through this course as well. My evidence is here. I have the notes posted as well as the email that you requested. Some of the interesting things I found was just there was definitely a focus throughout it of communication and the way different parts of education interrelate and feeling like that could be tightened up. I also like that she told me when I asked her at the end for advice, that just basically said schooling is great and you'll learn a lot, but nothing's going to teach you like being there. So just be flexible, be ready for anything. And I thought that was good advice as well. So the things I learned, as far as inclusion, I found that that a challenge to inclusion is basically a lack of knowledge about parental rights. I feel that some of that socioeconomic, and I'll get into that in a little bit, but also in my interview specifically, one of the people I was talking to, Amy Abramson, had said that she feels like she needs to be empowered properly to do her job so she can stand in the gap. And basically, the quote that I got from her, she needs to remain neutral enough when parents come to her, that parents can come to her with issues that they aren't ready to bring to the administration or to even the general ed teachers, and she can help them work through it. I think so. Her point was it can be intimidating the process of advocacy, and she wants to be able to stand in that gap. But not knowing those rights can definitely be a barrier to inclusion. As far as equity, I think a lack of understanding about disability in general education means that different staff at a school might treat special ed kids differently. I think Mrs. Bearden had said that I think sometimes we're more on board with our parents than with the other members of our team. And I think that was interesting to me in the sense that they were sort of hinting, or not hinting, but sort of suggesting that there's not adequate and sometimes no training for general education employees or educators about how disability works, and that can be a barrier to children being treated equitably in class. As far as access, that's where I really sort of leaned into the poverty element. Gorski said that our poor students scarcely make it out of early childhood without paying the price for our culture of classism. Poverty is a barrier to inclusion. It can be seen in unintentional behaviors from educators, and it often affects the parents themselves in feeling less inclined to advocate for their kids properly, not because they don't want to, but because they feel like they're not allowed to. As I was going through, I'm going to read this quote from Amy Abramson. With counseling, special education, general education, parents, children, community stakeholders, I think that we do not do a good job of communicating the needs of our children with IEPs throughout the school. I want to learn about the ways to synchronize just the efforts we put forth for our kids between different parts of the school, methods, trainings, things like that can be used to foster better communication between all parts, moving parts of education as they serve special need kids. I think that's going to be something that could be very useful in the future. And I guess my question for you guys is, if you were a special educator, how would you encourage your parents to engage? What techniques would you use to do that as effectively as possible? Well, thank you very much for listening. I have my my reference list here for the articles I read, and thank you very much. And it's been an honor being in this class.